Good morning, everyone. Happy
Good morning.
Monday.
Good morning. Happy Monday. Can you believe that it's another Monday and we are now in the back half of November? Like we're closer to December than we are November 1st.
We can now officially move into Christmas season because my birthday has passed. That's always my rule, is that we can't tarnish my birthday.
Of course not.
It needs to be a national holiday. I was saying that the other day. I don't know why this hasn't happened yet, but anyways, I always say that Christmas can start right after my birthday. So and it feels like this year everything has started early. So last week, my daughter, who's 8, came home and was like, when is our elf coming? Because some of my friends at school, their elves have already come. And I was like, what? This is madness. So our elves did arrive this weekend, but they're in quarantine for 14 days. So
yes, I love that. I know we're the same here. It's interesting because they ended up having to cancel all the Day of the Dead, so Dias los Muertos, Dias de la Muertos. And so it was kind of like, okay, we can't do that. Let's just go right into Christmas. And it was just like, boom, there's Christmas. And I'm like, wait a second. Anyways, I usually am like a December 1st must have. And we're kind of talking now, what do we do? But that's what we're talking about today, because here's the thing, guys. Some of you, are going to be having, or if you're in Canada, have already had your Thanksgiving and then your Christmas very differently this year. So we want to talk a little bit about that. Good morning, April. So Christina, what is your holidays? I mean, you're obviously not Thanksgiving, but what does your Christmas look like differently than it has in the past? Is there anything?
Well, we don't really know, to be honest. That it's sort of all up in the air, which anybody that knows me at all knows that is like killing me. I'm a planner and I like to have everything laid out well in advance. So this year we had actually, way back the end of January, pre-COVID life, we had booked an amazing vacation for just before Christmas. We were supposed to leave on the 17th, come home on the 24th. It was sort of like one of our dream resorts that we've been looking at for several years. It was definitely like more money than we'd ever spent on a vacation before. And just last month, that vacation got canceled. So now we don't know what we're doing. We're still hoping to travel. Our quarantine in Calgary here has changed a little bit. So we're still hoping to travel that week kind of before Christmas, but we have no idea if that's going to be able to happen or not. If it is, it'll be a last minute decision, which I've never booked a last minute trip in my life. I'm just not a last minute girl. So in terms of seeing family, my parents aren't really seeing people right now because my dad has some health conditions. So they're not really seeing anybody. So we're probably going to open gifts with my parents on Zoom. Kind of different. Dallas's family, we will hopefully be able to see, but we will not be with the kids when we see them because the kids will be with their dads. And we're just kind of keeping everything really small and a lot of it up in the air. So What about you guys, Lindsay?
It's so interesting, right? I mean, obviously we live in Mexico, so it's not like we ever go anywhere, but we tend to have a lot of people come visit us. Not necessarily right around Christmas, but, my mom's been here for Christmas. Ben's mom's been here for Christmas. We've had family here for Christmas. And at the moment, nobody is traveling. I mean, don't get me wrong. Here in Mexico, there are travelers, but none of our family members are. So, it's going to be a little different. Now, we tend to go to the beach for Christmas Day and just kind of chill out and make it a very relaxed. So that's not really going to change for us, but it's interesting to see how different things have gone, because I know a lot of people, have traveled for Christmas, have had far and wide come for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and we know that's not happening for a lot of people. And so, the last minute thing, as Christina says, I mean, I was saying to her the other day, I'm like, welcome to my world. Like everything that she's experiencing right now is so much like what I live my life with anyway. So I mean, our plans, as you say, are kind of just like, do we feel like going to the beach today? So it's not that big of a change for me particularly, but it is for a lot of people. And I know, Thanksgiving and then Christmas is a really, really big family time, especially if you have family that doesn't live across the street, or even in Christina's case, her family doesn't live, more than 30 minutes away, but because of the health concerns and conditions and stuff of her dad, they're not going to spend time together, and that's hard, right?
We also have a lot of restrictions happening right now, and as our COVID cases go up in the area that I live right now, they're getting tighter and tighter. So right now, we're allowed to have small gatherings of less than 15 people. So if we gather with Dallas's family, it would be less than 15 people. But if they lower that anymore, because I think we're 14 as we gather in that group of if everybody was able to make it and everybody was healthy and everything, I think we'd be 14. So if they lower that anymore, then that has to change. So those are really the only people that we see. And then, like I said, we also have the added piece of my kids go to their dads, and And that when Lindsay and I were talking about this topic the other day, because I said, is it too early to talk about like the holidays? And we kind of thought no, because they're, holy cow, almost here. But one of the things that I had brought up in terms of food and the holidays, that it's always tough because, I mean, people are on the go. There's so many delicious dishes that people make for the holidays. But this year, my concern for a lot of us is if we're not having the comforts of our family and all of our regular routine gets disrupted and, you know, our regular holiday, I definitely have the concern that so many more of us are going to start comforting with food. And food is a big thing about the holidays. Anyways, I noticed all through COVID lockdown stuff, people are baking, they're cooking, they are comforting with food because it is like food is like that warm hug for a lot of us, right? And when you can't hug people, then that's sort of what it's become. So that was definitely something that we wanted to touch on today, is just being aware of those behaviors that are probably going to creep up for, you know, quite a few people. So
yeah, and I mean, again, on the food part of that, we're also going to touch on the mindset piece, because let's be honest, I mean, when things are changing in general, if you're not a control freak, or even if you are, you are going to see different things happening going on. And then we see a lot of people who, you know, usually would see their parents or their siblings or their friends or whatever, and they're not able to do that this year either. Yeah, food and alcohol, exactly. Like those are things that we tend to forget. I mean, Christy and I joke a lot about life, and I mean, let's be honest, that's part of it. But, you know, having wine at 2:00 in the afternoon because your kids are home from school, and, you know, like all of these things, but they're real. but they're right? Like, don't check out. Exactly. Like, these are the things that we have to really, really think about. That, you know, yes, we had to think about last Christmas, right? Let's be honest. The holiday season as a whole is hard. We've
done workshops on the holidays every single year in this community, but this year it looks way different. And I do feel like even if you're not a planner, and that's not your thing, I feel like you need to have a plan in your back pocket right now. So even if that's a little uncomfortable for you, I think you kind of need to just think about, what does this look like for you? What do you want your holiday season to look like? And what are you not willing to compromise? That stress happens for everybody. This is going to be tough for a lot of people. Again, it will be heart-wrenching for me to not be with my parents on Christmas morning. That they've literally opened gifts with my kids every year. Ava is 8, and every single Christmas morning they've opened gifts with my kids. So that will be a little tough. But again, we've already made a backup plan because I'm a planner. So we have Zoom as our plan, and, you know, we're going to drop off gifts on the step and do all that kind of stuff. So things will look different, but again, there's sort of that plan because I know that's going to be a tough one for me. Most of the other stuff, not as tough. And ever since I had surgery, we tend to not do a lot of Christmas baking, but that just hasn't really, because I'm the one who does the baking, and if I'm not doing the eating, then I'm not going to do baking. So that's something that's kind of been easy for me, but there's all kinds of things. So when you're nervous about certain things, then I think that you need to sort of figure out the things that you're nervous about, why you're nervous about them, and sort of put some plans in place for how you can manage those things. So Lindsay, what are some mindset pieces that people can be doing they can start now to prepare themselves for these upcoming challenges?
Yeah, and I mean, you hear me say this all the time, right? You can only control what you can control. And unfortunately, COVID is not something that we can control, not something about what it looks like. And guess what? We can't even control what other people do, right? I mean, we can't control if people are going to wear masks. We can't control if people are going to go still travel. We can't control if they think you're crazy for not wanting to see your parents because, you know, we can't control any of those things. So I think the really big thing is to really focus on the things you can control, which is you, right? What you think, what you do, what you eat, what you drink, what you say, all of those things. And so as you start looking at what the holidays look like, you know, or potentially could look like, because let's be honest, who knows, you guys, everybody could go back into lockdown, you know, any minute kind of thing, is that it's kind of like having a backup plan to my backup plan to my backup plan. And it's funny, again, Christy and I were talking about this last week, where it's like, you know, when you have a plan and it doesn't go the way you wanted to execute it, it is hard. It's really hard on the brain, but that's when you have the backup plan or the backup plan to the backup plan. So you're kind of sitting down and saying, okay, so I know I really want to bake cookies with my grandkids, you know, and I know that if I bake cookies with my grandkids, I automatically want to eat some cookies with my grandkids. Okay, so what do? So let's look at what you're doing for the cookies. Well, so maybe you make 2 batches of cookies or 20 batches or whatever you usually do for cookies, you know, and you make some that are very specific. Maybe it's one of our recipes where they're a little bit more healthy. They may not be perfect, but, you know, they're a little bit more healthy. I'm going to make sure I make those, and then I'm going to help the kids make these, and then I'm going to allow myself 2 or 3 of those, because you know what, 2 or 3 of those cookies are not going to be nearly as bad as if I eat, you know, a package of the filled, you know, baked cookies that your kids, the grandkids make. So it's things like that where you have to kind of look at each individual section as best you can. You know, we talked a lot last year, and every Christmas, actually, to be fair, we talked a lot about kind of the players in your reality, right? So do you have a team member? Do you have a saboteur? Do you have a cheerleader on your team? And this year may be a little bit different, because a lot of the people that you usually might have to make a plan for to either stay clear of, or how do I attack, you might not have to do that. So then that's the other thing, is look at some of the positives to what you're doing. I mean, I know somebody the other day asked, what are some things you've really come out of this scenario of 2020 with? And I can say, like, for me, I've spent more quality time with my kids and Ben, and just hang out together. That's been really amazing. And so for Christmas, for us, again, not a lot of that changes, because we've always been by ourselves. But it's like, you know what, we're gonna have food, we're gonna watch movies, we're gonna open a present on Christmas Eve, which is what we usually do. We have a tree that's like about this big. It's kind of ridiculous.
That he barely let you keep. He barely let you keep it anyway.
Oh my God, he barely let me keep it. Well, and the funniest part about the whole thing now is that the place that we are staying in, we've actually extended numerous times, and now we're staying past Christmas, and it's this monster house. And I'm like, and my daughter, my youngest Gemma, she's like, our tree is gonna look so ridiculous. So, anyways, we'll talk about the tree, but it's the things that you really have always kept as tradition. I want you guys to really focus on those things, because you can still create amazing traditions. They just might be a little bit different than they've been in the past. And so that's really, really important. So I know, April, you said it's going to be stressful. Julie said she doesn't want to check out. Those are really big things that happen right over Christmas. We've always really tried to encourage people to stay focused, whether it's coming to our online classes, whether it's staying into our community, because the more you move away from all of those things, the easier it gets to just kind of forget that you're supposed to be focusing on this or thinking about that. So, Christina, what are some of the things that you can do from an actual, like, making sure, because we talked a little bit about this when we were planning this session, was that we find that a lot of people will be turning to food for comfort instead of necessarily turning to family or tradition or, those type of things. So what are some of the things that you're gonna recommend to them from a food specific point of view?
Okay, so there's a couple things. First of all, you're going to focus on metabolism first. That ignore what you're eating first and focus on when you're eating. So making sure that you're getting up and you're eating breakfast each day, especially on those days when it's going to be more of a challenge, like when you know that you have struggles, then focus on getting up and eating that healthy breakfast. Focus on eating every couple hours all day long. If you know that shit's going to hit the fan at dinner and it's going to be bad, then have a really great breakfast and a really great lunch and stay focused on your snacks all day long. So just because one meal isn't going to be what you want it to be, don't let the rest of the day fall apart, is one of the biggest things that I always say. Try to focus on the healthiest options that you can, which Lindsay just touched on a minute ago. That if you're making cookies with your family and those cookies or that baking isn't super healthy, make yourself some extras or bring yourself along. I know one of our members in our online classes, Michelle, is amazing at always bringing along her little dessert or whatever. That she's like, everybody else is going to be having pumpkin pie, and I don't want to eat the traditional sugar-filled pumpkin pie, so I'm going to bring myself along a little pumpkin mug cake, and I'm going to have that instead. Is it perfect? No, but it's a much, much better option, and at the end of the day, you're going to feel satisfied and you're going to feel fulfilled. So having those little things, making yourself some energy balls. There's actually have a whole bunch of like holiday themed energy balls in various kinds, where you can do like mint chocolate, or you could do like the cranberry chocolate or the orange, like everything's chocolate. There's some that aren't chocolate out there too. But all kinds of different like holiday sweets that you can do. That I don't know if I'm blog or email this week, but Lindsay and I put a blog and an email out after this. I will put the holiday sweets recipe book in with whichever one I'm doing. And you guys can grab that too, so that we hand it out every year. It's literally been the same one for like 3 years. So there might be a couple new recipes in there. I'll have to look, but we'll give that to you guys so that you have just some healthier options that, again, instead of indulging on all of the sweets, at least then you can have a little bit of something that's going to be a little bit better for you. Focusing on drinking your water, keeping that on track, trying to get a workout in. Obviously, that's not food related, but it does help your metabolism. It helps you burn calories, and it helps your mindset. And it also helps. I know if I have a really great workout in, I'm less likely to eat junk because I don't want to waste that workout. But I'm like, ooh, I hate burpees, and I just did a whole bunch of them, so I don't really want to mess that up. So those are some of the things you can do. In terms of when you're actually eating at like a dinner kind of thing, focus on whole foods first. So your veggies, your fruit, and your meats are going to be kind of your best options. Anything casserole-y or loaded with sauce or gravies or anything like that are kind of the less great options. So try to fill yourself with those whole foods and then add in a little bit to the other stuff afterwards. If you are at a family gathering, if you are one of the people that is able to do family gatherings still, look at, sitting with the people that make good healthy choices is always a great idea. Staying away from the appetizer table, or having things in your hands. We talked about on a call, I think it was last week, we talked about being the baby holder. So if there's a baby there, you hold the baby so that you're not stuffing food in your mouth while you're doing that. If you go to a party, I know most parties aren't happening this year, but there are still some. Hold a handbag, like one of the ones that like a clutch bag that you like hold in your hand instead of one that goes over your shoulder. All kinds of little things to keep your hands busy. Those are things that are all going to help you to sort of minimize things. If you're going to something where you're taking food to a potluck, make sure that you take something that you can eat. So then it doesn't matter what else is there. If you take your awesome healthy meatballs, at least you can have awesome healthy meatballs. If everything else there is something that isn't as desirable for you to eat.
Yeah, and I think too, remember that this group is really good with that. I don't know if you saw last week what one of our members, Christine, she actually posted, I'm going to a potluck, I need some help, and like hundreds of options came in, like vegetable recipes. I love this, I love that. And so if you are struggling with that kind of stuff, definitely reach out and ask, because that is going to help, because you should always have an option, right? There's nothing worse than going. It's like when you go to like those play places with your kids, or the cinema or whatever, and you walk in and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's nothing here that I could or should eat. And so always bring in your own, right? I'm a snacker in my bag where it's just like, put it away so you can bring it with you, but always have the option. And then just in general, I want you guys to really think about some of the things that you might not be doing that you really love to do. So in Christina's case, her parents coming over for Christmas morning is a really big deal normally. So how can you make that still super special? And you're like, oh, there's no way. Well, of course there's a way, right?
There's always a way.
There could be writing an amazing poem with your kids, and then in the morning they read the poem to the parents on Zoom, right? Maybe you're writing them a letter, just letting them know how much because there's nothing better.
Yeah, I feel like Zoom is going to be so busy on Christmas morning, because I don't think we're the only ones doing like a Zoom, Christmas thing. I think also really focusing on the pieces of the holidays that are important to you, that we all have like these grand things. I was actually talking with a girlfriend this morning, and we were saying that Christmas spirit isn't like a real thing. It's something that we create. So thinking about the pieces of Christmas spirit that matter to you, which is I think why a lot of people are decorating early this year, because the decorations are really lifting people's like spirits. They're making people feel better. So if that's really important to you, then do the decorating, go over the top, be the Griswolds this year, like do whatever you need to do to make yourself happy in that way. And if that helps you, if you're not seeing family in the same way, then do more like of the Zoom things. We did back in, when was it? It was April, I think, Lindsay, when we did our virtual retreat where we all got dressed up and did like a Zoom. It was so fun. Like we had so do that with your family. Do a Zoom dinner party with your family over Christmas. If you're not doing your regular Christmas thing, you can still do like Christmas gift exchanges, especially like if you live sort of nearby. We did in our neighborhood. I don't know if you guys saw these that were happening again way back when lockdown first started, but there was like the wine ninjas, where like, people were like dropping random like wine bottles off on our doorstep, which was fantastic, by the way. If anybody wants to start that again, I'll give you my address. But that was fun. So again, talking about that, giving back more. So if you're not spending as much money traveling and doing all of these things, maybe you can donate your money to a different place. Like there's a lot of people really struggling right now. So if you could do something like that, I know that's something that we've talked with the kids about giving back a little bit more. We try every year to sort of get them a little more into it. So there's so many things. So just think about what Christmas spirit means to you and what the pieces are that you really want to add into your life this year. And again, Lindsay and I are both fans of making lists. So maybe make some lists and think about, okay, these are the things that we usually do. Cross off the things that maybe can't happen this year, but then replace them with brand new things. And who knows, maybe the new things will actually end up being better than the old things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even we were saying the other day, I was saying this to a friend of mine. As I said, we're usually pretty independent just because we've always traveled over Christmas and now we live here. But like, even if, you can do Netflix watch now where you can all watch a Christmas movie together, like on a Christmas Eve, you can all open your pajamas if that's part of your tradition. But it really is about understanding what is the most important to you, right? Find that
gingerbread house making,
right,
like,
gingerbread
party.
yeah, online we can do it.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a holiday party for our Your Bariatric Transformation, and we were talking yesterday in one of the classes I was teaching how exciting that is, because it's like, it's funny, everybody was all joking about like, oh, but you'll never buy a dress, Lindsay, and now I'm like, oh, now I gotta buy a dress, and what movie, what music are we gonna listen to, and like, so we're actually creating these plans so that we can, because even though we weren't able to do our in-person retreat this year, which we all know fills our cups so much, we did our virtual retreat, and now we're doing this party, which is something that we can do. But I know some people are like, well, it's not the same. And you know what? Do I want to give a full-on hug to many of our people that I didn't get to? Yeah, absolutely. But it is the best next thing, the next best thing. Because if you sat in a corner and didn't communicate with anybody and didn't Zoom anybody and didn't do any of those things, you would definitely not be able to fill your cup at all. These types of things, the parties, the watch parties on Netflix, the gingerbread making contest, whatever it is, they actually will make you feel good. It may not be the same as spending, Christmas in Italy with your family, or it may not be the same as coming to Mexico and hanging with me for the Christmas, but it is as close as we're going to get in a situation that we can't control. And I think that's really, really important to remember.
And again, focusing on those positives, keeping those things as positive as you possibly can, and being thankful for the things that you get to let go of. Like I said, I know the family Christmas stuff is stressful for a lot of people, that there's not always the feel goods about all of that. So if you're one of those that you're like, oh, I don't have to see my mother-in-law this year, then be like, yes, I don't have to see my mother-in-law this year. You can quietly celebrate that. Maybe keep that on the down low. But if that is how you feel, then that's fantastic. And again, if you don't have to be around all that food at the office, this was always a huge one that we always had to talk about every single year, was all of the people that are bringing in the food and the potluck and the donuts and the chocolates. And I bet none of that's happening this year because COVID, you can't be like sharing food, and you can't be, so be so thankful for that. That again, just another struggle that maybe you get to avoid this year if you're not even A, going into an office, which a lot of people aren't, and B, the food sharing is like so different this year. So there's so many positive things that we need to just focus on. And again, create your own traditions that maybe you've always done XYZ because that's what your mom did, and that's what her mom did, and that's what her mom did, and it's just always been tradition, but you friggin' hate it. So make your own path this year and carve out something that's completely special for you. And maybe we'll start a thread in the group here about some of the ideas that people are doing to give some people some different things, because there's a lot of fun stuff that I see on Facebook all the time that I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Like the elf quarantine, I found that on Facebook and was like, stealing that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Julie said here, before her brother passed away, he wanted to watch movies on Christmas. They've gotten away from that. And yeah, finding the watch with your family. So again, I actually only know about Netflix, but I'm sure you're back. You're back. You're good. Right. So the watch party is really good. I take kind of leeway from my kids because they play their video games while they're on Zoom with their cousins and friends and whatever. And so there they are talking just like we're talking, but then they're like, no, stop, don't kill me, right? And they're like doing all of these things. And I'm like, what is going on? But that's kind of the same idea. So if you're somebody who watches movies, like I always joke, like, Ben and I watch movies together and very rarely are we actually talking except for about the movie. And then you have a conversation or you're like, that character is really weird, don't you think? And that's you can do when you're watching a watch and play movie on Netflix. So yeah, it's super fun. And that's the thing I think I was talking to a client the other day about exactly that, is that there are so many parts of the holidays that people don't love, right? They don't love seeing Aunt Susie, who's always just like, you're looking a little thin. Don't you think you should be eating more? Or, so-and-so who's saying, what's going on? You're still not eating well? Like, you have to bring your own dessert? Like, so we have these people in our world that at Christmas or at holidays, we think, we have to put up with it. Well, guess what? You don't have to put up with it this year. Yay!
It's funny. The girlfriend that I walk to and from school with every day, she's not in our group, so I can kind of call her out on it. But she's she was dreading for like the last month or more, like almost every day she's talking about having to go see her mother-in-law for Christmas. And then just this past weekend, they decided that they're not going. And this morning, just like the pep in her step about it, like she was like, yeah, not going. And like just, you could see that she was just like, oh, like such a weight lifted, right? Like that I don't have to deal with this. And that, yeah, we just get to have this quiet, low key, do what we want, get up and be leisurely, cook a dinner if we want to. Don't if we don't. But yeah, like, you know, you just do what you want. So really focus on those things. And again, like getting ideas from other people, I love, because there are some people that have some amazing plans. And some of you are going to do the traditional stuff. And again, in this group, just so you guys know, there's no judgment. So it's your decision. That is something Lindsay and I have been passionate about since day one of these groups. And COVID doesn't change that. We still aren't letting you judge each other about this. So if any of that judgy crap happens, gone. Yeah. So you do you and do what's best for you and your family, and ideally follow the law and all those things. That we'd really prefer if you do that. But
and just one more thing on that point, guys. If you have kids or grandkids or whatever, just remember they're looking to you for, you know, what they should be feeling right now. So if you're disappointed about not seeing grandma and grandpa, they're gonna feel that way too. If you're like, oh, you know, I know we really want to see grandma and grandpa, but we're gonna do this cool watch video thing. We're gonna do Zoom in the morning. We're going to do these things. You know, it's going to be amazing. They're going to feel that as well. So as you kind of look around, if, you know, you have kids that are really disappointed that they're not going to do this, or really disappointed to not do that, just encourage them with all the other great things that you're going to be doing, and know that it trickles down. So if you're bummed and upset and all that, they're going to feel the same way. So just remember that as you go.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun. We will go back. Like I said, there'll be a blog and an email at the end of this week, one on Thursday, one on Saturday. One of them is going to have the Holiday Sweets recipe book in there. So we'll put that in there, and you guys can get some holiday sweets ideas, some healthier holiday sweets. Again, not perfect, but better. We also, like Lindsay said, we are doing our holiday party coming up on, I believe it was December 12th is the date that we said. If you want more details on that, or your Bariatric Transformation Academy program, let us know, and we'd love to give you some details on that. Find a connection somewhere right now to get you through this, especially if you do feel like you're going to be stressed, you're going to be struggling. I know we have, Julie's actually a prime example. Julie and Tony are buddies in our program, and they're doing fantastic, checking in with each other, staying connected, all of that. So find someone that you can connect with over this next month and a half or so, and when things could be a little bit of a struggle, and feel free to plug into this group a little bit more, stay checked in, and we will also post a thread on what are people doing so that we can get some fun ideas. I need more plans. I need more things to plan is more what it is. Oh, I think Lindsay froze on us again.
Up with planning.
Oh, there you go. You might be back.
There you go. All right, guys. Have a fantastic Monday, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Bye.